Okay, so Owen suggested to me like just a couple of hours ago that I should go ahead and do this video. When I just assumed whatever the next thing was that we did, I would just tack on whatever I thought at that point. But I guess I'm just gonna go through everything here real quick, including the even though I wasn't there for the whole thing that we did, I did manage to see the whole show just in like a group setting. So yeah, and instead of going in the order of the show just for the sake of being easier, I'm just going to go in the backwards order that these pages are. Uh, and it just, I guess eventually we'll get to the points of the show itself on top of what the results were and all that. The first one listed here is foreign. I mean, that was always going to be obvious, but at the same time, I did keep saying that whole thing about, since Roma did seem like a certainty at the time, if potentially they were going to try to spread the love in foreign and maybe do something like Cold War with all of the love that it got. Despite the fact that I have said many times before that a lot of people, especially people that don't really pay much attention and just sort of do like distant, banal commentary on like, Twitter or whatever the fuck, would say like the Academy is this one group that makes this one decision, seemingly behind closed doors. Somehow you pack 8,000 people into one room that say, for political reasons, we're going to do this, or for the sake of a good show, we're going to do that, which is clearly not the case. But I did wonder how much love there was for Cold War, in this category, regardless. But obviously we'll never know that. But the question will always linger in my mind is, let's say that Roma was like a Titanic level certainty or a Return of the King level certainty. If maybe they would have tried that, I'm gonna seriously doubt it. But like I said, we'll never know. But if there's a way to make this fun in any sort of way, that's what I would say was to bring up that whole sort of conspiracy-esque thing. So yeah, but obviously we all knew that was always going to be Roma all day, every day, including weekends. So, as far as the shorts go, obviously, as usual, I botched the shit out of these. So, apparently, as far as short documentary goes, I was talking about how the last time they had one of those terminally ill people shorts, like when, because I went with Endgame here, I had said they'd had one of these a couple years ago with Extremis that also lost, and I was trying to think there was another one that kind of reminded me of Lifeboat, and that was I think I was thinking of 4.1 Miles, which was the same year as Extremis, and they both lost too. So, period in the sentence though, like I said, I did see it after we did the prediction video, and it's like there's quite a few of these where if we had done like one more prediction video like the night before, I potentially think I would have said period end of sentence, but nevertheless, that's how it goes. So, and as far as the other shorts, as I lose track of where the hell I am, well, thank God for their sake, Detainment didn't take it, but once again, live action short, there's really hardly anything to even go towards, especially since they're usually the most difficult to see. Unless you actually like do the thing where you go to those theaters that actually play them. Only play the animated shorts and live action shorts usually. Don't play the documentaries for some reason, but usually those are on either like news websites or put up on YouTube, like Lifeboat was at the last minute. Um, so yeah, live action short. I mean, I never get too bent out of shape when I'm wrong about it because, like I said, it's you just have to guess. There's really no determining exactly what that's going to be, except Skin was the one that we determined when we were doing the nominations video about how it does have like a feature length movie version now that like just played at TIFF or something. So yeah, and yeah, I probably should have said Bow, but like I said, it's never too obvious when it comes to the Pixar movie and animated short because they really don't always take it at all, and they tend to sometimes go for random movies like Weekends, which is the one I guessed. So yeah, or there was that time where when Bear Story won, and when you looked at the lineup, Bear Story seemed like the least likely of those five. So just any kind of that shit should happen. But yeah, I probably should have said Bow, but I didn't. I don't know if that was just bias towards the fact that I didn't care for it or what. But like I said, I didn't really care for much of any of those anyway. So that's how all of that ended up. I was actually starting to think A Night at the Garden might have taken documentary short at the last minute there, but yeah, obviously. So as far as documentary and animated, animated is, you know, it was never going to be anything else. Even though, like we said, it is the whole. There's always the chance that the Disney movie can win no matter what. The go-to example, obviously, being Big Hero 6 over How to Train Your Dragon, but especially when Pixar's in the mix, like when Brave beat Wreck-It Ralph, which is still a wound that's never healed, and probably never will. But so yeah, it is really interesting that they went for a movie like as unique in its presentation as Spider-Man is, and as we were saying, Phil Lord and Chris Miller being Oscar winners now was pretty amazing. So we do have that documentary. Obviously, a lot of us were saying Free Solo at the end there, and Free Solo really did seem to like take off in this big way. It's still like a big deal right now. Like I'm that guy is like everywhere now, which is great because that's the thing too is I also like that sort of big surge that Free Solo started to have because I mean while RBG is fine. There's really nothing particularly strong about it, like in the way it presents what it wants to, and it kind of got a bit lost in the whole meme thing there. So I like that something that seemed to have like I don't know how to because that's another thing going back to the whole you could just say like the people saying oh they want to do RBG to make some big political stance or whatever and it's like no they just went with the guy that can climb without ropes and almost kill himself but yeah, with the back and forth personality. But yeah, still my favorite of these five is Minding the Gap, but there'll always be a dark cloud over this category this year anyway because of the whole Won't You Be My Neighbor thing, which obviously should have taken this category throughout the entire year, like it more or less did, except for here, but we'll try not to get too hung up on that because we wouldn't want to take away from the great accomplishment that Free Solo was. Last one on here is visual effects. God damn it. So what visual effects has told me this year is I can't go for my first option, nor can I go for my second option. Sometimes I'll just be fucked either way. Because throughout the whole year, I was making choices, changing my mind at the last minute, and it was always the first choice. And I almost did that this time. I was this damn close to switching over to First Man after having decided on Avengers. But I was like, nope, the whole year, my first choice has always been the right one, and it always fucks up when I go with my second choice. And now I learned that I should have gone with my second choice. So that was just lose-lose all over, no matter what. And it also kind of made me wonder if it was like... I mean, obviously, the first and foremost thing you'll say is the Academy loves space movies, and that's when you look at visual effects. But also, the thing that kind of came to mind was it's like... if they're how much they give a fuck about superhero movies right now. Because it was like... you know, as far as picture and it getting a few wins in there, and it's like, yes, Black Panther, awesome, that's great. And then you get to animate, it's like, Spider-Man, yes, we love Spider-Man. It's like visual effects. Avengers, it's like, no, we've run out of, we don't give a fuck about superheroes. Just get them out of my face now. We did the Black Panther thing, we did the Spider-Man thing. The Avengers can go fuck itself. So, you could say that too, but I'm sure they just love the space movies more. And what I was talking about, when I heard about the Visual Effects Guild saying they much they're really trying to get more towards recognition for more practical effects, which First Man obviously had a lot more of than Avengers did. So, and a lot of people were thinking that's how Solo got in, period, despite the fact that Star Wars usually does anyway. But that was a big factor, was they really want to see it, and how Solo had more practical effects than people realized when you look at the behind-the-scenes shit. So, yeah. Oh, for God's sake. Speaking of more shit that's haunting me, I botched the sounds, too. I botched the sounds just how I botched the shorts. Honestly, wasn't ever thinking about Bohemian Rhapsody in editing. I thought that was Owen just going out on a whole Bohemian Rhapsody kick, but no. And I had heard something about Oscar history is so long. I really struggle to just outright say this is the first time ever, but I was thinking I heard it was like the first time ever that like a music-based movie got sound editing, which is really interesting, especially with some of the options here. And yeah, you know, Bohemian Rhapsody and sound mixing, I just knew that was... like, I kind of figured at first, even though I went on Black Panther, because I kind of thought Black Panther would get some sound award, but editing really seemed like to be a First Man thing. I went with First Man on the wrong thing. I knew First Man was going to take fucking something. I just picked the wrong one. And as far as Bohemian Rhapsody taking sound mixing, like, as soon as I saw the movie again, which unfortunately was after the prediction video, it was like, wow, That is just, we are literally witnessing sound mixing in the movie. Of course, it's so obvious. But yeah, I have no idea why that's probably one of the worst mistakes I have ever made in regards to not going with the blatantly obvious. And so we're gonna go ahead and stick with the music theme. As far as song goes, this is where the performances came in also. It did seem like something was oddly missing, especially when the actual nominees came up, with all the stars missing, even though we heard like 2 days in advance, I think, that Kendrick Lamar had that scheduling conflict. So, despite the fact that, All the Stars was supposed to be one of the only ones performed for that brief period before Lady Gaga told them to fuck off. So as far as the performances go, I did do, like, when they were saying the performances only last for 90 seconds, and we're super strict about that. So I actually used my watch to time exactly what they were. All Fight, I believe, was the first one, and I think I saw that it went, like, exactly 2 minutes. It's like, okay, so they're not going to stick to that. That's fine. They're actually giving them the time, which turned out great for them because their most publicized moment of the entire night was one of the songs that I don't think they would have been able to squeeze something like this in like 90 seconds. This is that the whole Shallow thing had to like really, really use its time as much as humanly possible, of course. And the Buster Scruggs song is nice, though I do kind of wish it was Tim Blake Nelson and his co-star, but, whatever. And obviously, I would have loved to see Blunt perform the Poppin' song until the whole stage fright thing is something that I knew about, but then it, like, totally didn't occur to me through this whole thing, and it's like, I do, like, I guess I do prefer her, like, not doing something she didn't want to do as opposed to forcing herself to doing this for the sake of it. So, based on that alone, I guess I'm fine with the Bette Midler thing, but I think I preferred the Keegan-Michael Key entrance even more than Midler's performance itself. But the set was really nice for that number also, so it did have that going for it. But yeah, as far as predictions go, anybody not saying Shallow was clearly, dropped on their head or something. As far as score goes, once again, we come back to Mary Poppins. Even though, it was, you could predict it from a billion miles away, my heart still is kind of shattered that Mary Poppins couldn't, like, sneak away with something, but yeah, I was really kind of starting to believe the whole Beale Street hype on this, especially since it's such a huge identifying part of the movie, and it's like one of the main things that people bring up. But, obviously Ludwig Göransson was also right there also, and I probably should have put more faith in him, but I didn't for some reason. I actually kind of thought that, Black Panther's Checkered Flag was more or less nominations day, with the exception of, like, one or two things in the tech categories. But, yeah, it really started whipping the favorites' ass there in the tech categories. But we'll get to more of those later. I also, was kind of secretly pulling for Black Klansman here, even though I knew it was absolutely impossible. Especially with Black Klansman sort of feeling like a very lucky nomination, considering the snub for a First Man, which, honestly, I kind of prefer this. Like, I really just like this lineup the way it is. I know people really love that First Man score and everything, but I'm just kind of good with these 5 here the way they are. As far as makeup goes, obviously everybody knew this was Vice. As I was saying in the video before I left, though, I must say, after having watched the movie, it is kind of amazing that a movie like Border can be an Oscar-nominated movie. Like, even if you don't have interest, I mean, I recommend, the movie's not that great, but I do recommend seeing it just... If somebody told you what happened, you may not believe it. Like, even if you, like, read the synopsis... I went back and read the Wikipedia synopsis after I saw it, and it's like, yeah, that's what happens, because I was wondering, like, how the hell do you explain this? And it's like, I guess that explains it. So it would have been even crazier for a movie like that to be considered an Oscar-winning movie, but we all knew this was Vice. Mary Queen of Scots is just kind of happy to be here. As far as costumes and production design, I should have stuck with the whole instinct of they match up a lot. But with movies like, with a movie like The Favorite in here, and, with the technical love that Black Panther... Because Black Panther always seemed like a pretty good bet as far as costumes. Like, even from the beginning of the year, people were saying that. When people were saying, like, oh, Black Panther's got, you know, a lot of praise and it's really successful. They're saying it's, you know, culturally impactful. Is it going to get a picture nomination? Most people back in February said no. But they did say probably costume design or something. So that, even back then, over a year ago, it seemed like a certainty. But still, with a movie like The Favorite in here, on top of The Favorite getting 10 nominations, I felt like they were at least going to split up. But man, for most of the night, The Favorite really took a beating. And that's kind of what I liked too, was obviously I've said many times since last February how huge of a fan I am of Black Panther. And it's like the way people were trying to build it up where it was like, oh, they just nominated Black Panther because of this or because of that reason. And it's like for it to get a few wins, especially over the great stuff The Favorite was doing, a movie they clearly loved, I think shows there was, you know, something worthwhile there that people still really did connect with. If anything, go watch the video of Charlize Theron and talking to Michael B. Jordan, like crying, describing how much Black Panther meant to her. But yeah, so and yeah, I'm kind of torn here because both Black Panther and The Favorite are totally deserving. We know the movie I would have gone for both, but as far as the realistic choices, yeah, I'm good with these, especially Black Panther in costumes. Like, I was kind of feeling like, while The Favorite's costumes are amazing, it would have felt significantly less inspired. For, like, just going for the period movie and costumes is, like I said, as great and grand as they are, it's almost lazy at this point. And for them to go for something a lot more inspired and, you know, especially on the creative front and the variety like Black Panther, was really pleasing. So there is that. I actually am somewhat, I shouldn't be at all, but I was somewhat surprised in its production design victory over The Favorite. But yeah, like I said though, more often than not they double up anyway, so that makes sense. As far as editing goes, I don't hate this movie by any means. I don't. But all I was saying before they announced it was please not Vice. And thankfully it was the movie I thought it would be, Bohemian Rhapsody. And this has been kind of getting annoying. Because obviously for a while now, especially after, I mean, it started with the whole inaccuracies thing, and then it got on to Rami Malek getting into the front of the actor race and it getting a picture nomination. Bohemian Rhapsody's been making a lot of enemies. In certain circles, you'd never know that, but in other circles, that's all they fucking talk about. And there's already a video on YouTube trying to call this out. And it says, hey, here's Academy Award winner for Best Editing, Bohemian Rhapsody. And it's the scene when they first meet Aidan Gillen, and he shows up, and he's wearing what they say looks like an angry lizard. And it takes like 10 cuts for him to sit down. And they took this second and a half of this 135-minute movie and are trying to say, hey, look at these idiots giving Bohemian Rhapsody editing when this scene exists. And it's like, that is like I said, 1.5 seconds out of 2 hours and 15 minutes. When you look at the rest of the movie, there's, like, obviously, there's all the montages, that's a given, but then there's stuff, like, just in general, the song creation scenes. A lot of people point to Live Aid, but one scene that always stood out to me, and maybe another scene a lot of people consider to be over-edited, but I didn't, is the scene where they're building We Will Rock You, and it's the scene where Brian is, like, showing him how to do the rhythm, and whenever he claps, there's a cut to one of them, and it does it twice. Like, he does it 3 times in front of Freddie. The first time he does it, it cuts to the band. The second time he does it, it cuts to Freddie. The third time he does it, it restrains and just stays on him. And it's stuff like that that I think is what stands out even more. A lot more than one scene, or one moment that's 1 second long, that people are going to pick apart to make it sound like they know more of what they're doing than the fucking editing guild or anybody else that actually does this fucking job in the industry. But no, the people on Twitter, they're the ones you want to go to for, you know, professional information on this. Just fuck that. Twitter's one of the worst fucking things to ever happen in movies, I swear to Christ. But yeah, so I'm really good with Bohemian Rhapsody winning. Obviously, I would have loved for BlacKkKlansman to have taken anything it was up for. I think that's pretty clear. The Favorite would have been very interesting. Also, it was also like, nobody ever thought Green Book would take it, even given what we know now. But still, the main thing I was kind of championing against here was Vice, because that's, like, the thing that's working. Like, the things that don't work about Vice are the way it's put together. And I know, like I said, whenever you heard Hank Corwin's name at any of the Guild meetings or interviews, there was always cheering. He's obviously got a lot of respect, and a lot of people clearly love what he did with Vice, but I thought it was, like, kind of the movie's downfall for me personally, but, whatever. Cinematography, obviously, Corwin was always going to run away with this. Apparently, there's some controversy. A lot of the articles I see, like, appear and then they disappear just as quickly. This whole thing about how Corwin might be taking credit for the job that somebody else did as far as the cinematography on Roma. I don't know, because I haven't really seen enough about this, but from everything I've heard, the very little I've heard about it, it's like a non-issue, and it's something that's being blown out of proportion. And it's not like Corwin's like a fraud in this or anything like that. But like I said, I didn't get near enough information to really say anything about that at all, because I just see it in like little snippets. But yeah, even so, this was always a given. It would have been interesting, even though I'm still not, totally on board with the whole fisheye thing. The favorite would have been a really cool winner here also, but it was pretty clear that, much like another category later, this was a category that Corwin was not losing. It was quite funny to see him go into the press room at the end holding two in one hand and one in the other. He looked like Coppola after... that picture of Coppola after Godfather 2 won, and he's got, like, just his arm full. So yeah, and it's one of those things, though, where, like, you can't fault them for going for Roma, but it's, like... It's weird, because you just see how much... There was a comment somebody I saw made, somebody I talked to, actually, and they said something that did resonate well, and this is going... And I do like Roma. I like Roma quite a bit, actually. But it just really made sense when somebody I know said, Cuarón directed the absolute shit out of Roma for no goddamn reason. And it's like, at the same time, I know exactly what they mean by that. So it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, and they're actually, I don't know if anybody saw that, like, campaign ad that A Star Is Born put out at the last minute, where it was the lyrics to the start of his song where it says, maybe it's time to let the old ways die, but it's just, maybe it's time, ... and they left it at that. And then it said, there are some movies we admire, then there are movies we feel. And obviously, movies we admire, I think, they were taking a jab at how people probably truly felt about Roma, or at least, to an extent. And then I think somebody made the comment, notice that A Star Is Born is the fourth version of A Star Is Born, the fifth if you count What Price Hollywood or What Price Glory, one of those two. And I think it's What Price Hollywood. I get those movies confused all the time, and I've seen both of them. The lyric is, maybe it's time to let the old ways die. It's like, is that the lyric you want to use to promote vote for A Star Is Born, the fourth or fifth version? But yeah. So, that A Star Is Born obviously was only going to have one Oscar win under its belt for the past, 2 or 3 months now. So, that's what that is. Yeah. We all knew what cinematography was. Adapted screenplay, I am extremely happy about. Not only is Spike Lee finally an Oscar winner, but it's for BlacKkKlansman, which was easily the best option here, but also... I guess I'll talk about the Spike Lee thing when we talk about picture, but as far as this, obviously there was the fantastic moment where Samuel Jackson got to totally freak out, and they did the whole hug thing. And you can tell it, like, made Samuel Jackson's night a lot better, because he didn't seem all that thrilled about having just announced Green Book as the original screenplay winner. So yeah, that was a really great moment too. I still have no idea what that large gap of silence was before he started, but and I just assumed maybe it was like celebratory expletives or something, but I don't know. I still haven't been able to figure that out. But So yeah, I was only gonna ever be happy with one outcome here, even though Can You Ever Forgive Me did try to come back in a big way with the WGA win. But yeah, that was like, it was like all year the guilds just started saying, fuck you to expectations, and we're just gonna do whatever the hell we want. And sometimes that came back here, and sometimes it just totally didn't. And both screenplays are the times where it didn't. The movie that we thought was totally dead, potentially, in original screenplay after it got beat by a movie that's not even nominated because of Bo Burnham, Green Book kind of came back with a somewhat surprise victory, because I was really, really sold on the favorite here by the end there. But then after, like, the whole beating of the favorite was taking most of the night, it was, like I said, I couldn't tell if, oh, so they do really like Green Book, or it's like, oh, did they just decide they don't like the favorite anymore after the 10 nominations? Um, but, yeah, so most of these you'll notice, if I'm not good with them or ecstatic about them, I'm just indifferent to them, and it's like, yeah, we knew that, whatever. This is the one that I'm just really not sure about. When you got a movie like The Favorite in there, and you just hear, that dialogue of characters just verbally ripping each other to pieces, and the way the story's set up and all that, and the structure of it and all that, I don't know about Green Book here. It is interesting when you go back and you look at the first trailer for Stuck on You, which I remember seeing way back in the day when it first was on something, where the joke of the trailer was starring a cat. It was made up to look like some Oscar bait trailer, but it's fucking Stuck on You. And the joke at the beginning is the trailer voice saying Academy Award winner Matt Damon, Academy Award nominee Greg Kinnear, Academy Award winner Cher, and then the punchline is from five-time Academy Award watchers, the Farrelly Brothers. The joke being the Farrelly Brothers would never in a million years be Oscar winners. Now Peter Farrelly is a two-time Oscar winner with a Best Picture winner on his resume. That's how do you like them apples, I suppose, since we're on the Matt Damon topic. So, yeah, I don't know how... and what's the thing about this, though, is it's conflicting because I've been defending Green Book so much since I saw it, and I don't know how I feel about this. But, I mean, I suppose it adds up when you know the rest of the results, but that's about all you can really say. I mean, not that it's not well written at all. I mean, obviously there's something there, but... I mean, when you're up against the favorite, that's gonna look weird, especially when you got Schrader in here also. It's gonna look weird when you look back on it and you see what the competition was. So yeah. Director, obviously we knew this all along. The thing about this is I don't know. I could be just judging what little I'm looking at, like most people do, but. Spike Lee seemed to be somewhat disappointed he didn't take this, despite the fact that he's witnessed the outcome all season, just as we have. And the fact that he's been all buddy-buddy with Quarren through the whole season. But, yeah, but I kind of also feel his pain, because it's kind of like there was a part of me inside where the whole thing, it was being built up. The huge narrative this year was it's Spike Lee's first director nomination, and his first time for a picture nomination. And that was really getting blown up. And, a lot of people were dismissive of Roma for being the, black and white foreign Netflix movie that people would, watch for 20 minutes and then go to something else. But even so, this was, never not going to be Quarren. If we can get excited and we can hope for something, totally out of nowhere, like I did in the next category. But, yeah, that was just kind of always going to be Quarren. So... there that is. As far as supporting actress goes, I mentioned a while back that I didn't really get the big deal with Regina King and If Beale Street Could Talk, but If Beale Street Could Talk just kind of didn't, If Beale Street Could Talk is one of those movies where, the more I thought back on it, the more I was like, okay, I see, If Beale Street Could Talk is one of those movies that I think is a lot better in its individual moments than it is as a whole. So I think that's why it didn't really, land with me too much. When I think back on what, the very best aspects of it were, I just see, pieces of it. I'm not really thinking about, the whole thing was some really great thing. But which was kind of a letdown because I love Moonlight so much. And I kind of wish it had sort of had that, But then there's also cases where you just have to say, after a while, Beale Street's probably just not a movie for me, to a certain degree. So I can live with that. And anytime somebody says, like, they were just absolutely blown away by it, it's like, yeah, I get what they mean. Like, I could see somebody having that reaction for sure, but it just wasn't me. So, I probably would have, obviously, as far as Weisz goes, Rachel Weisz, she's not an actress I have praised a lot at all in the past, but I would have been okay with her taking this. As far as Marina de Rivera goes, I actually watched Roma again the night before, like the night of the Spirit Awards, and it was one of those cases where I'm really surprised how off the map she was till she got this nomination, because, like, and you may not totally get this when you see the clip they used for her, but it's like, almost every scene she has in Roma is showy. And it's like, I can't believe she didn't really leave an impact on me the first time I saw it. Because it's like, I don't know if I just had it in my mind, it's like, she was nominated for this, and I just predicted her to win. Oh, shit. It was like, I don't know if I had that on the brain when I watched it, but it was like, she was a lot more memorable than I remembered that time around, obviously. So, that's... See, I actually would have been okay with that, not just for the sake of predictions, but, like, she actually probably would have been a worthy winner, but all season, though, this category was pretty weak. So, like I said, if Amy Adams would have won, it just kind of would have been, like, the part is so baity and her scenes are so just asking for it, like, it would have been... I think it's going to do her a big favor if she wins for something else that is much more... Yeah. So, as far as supporting actor goes, obviously, it turned out there was no race here. I would have really... Obviously, I wanted Adam Driver to be in it more than he was. Obviously, would have loved to have seen Richard E. Grant surprise somewhere. Even Samuel... I did get a chance to see A Star Is Born again, and I think I was thrown off the first time I saw it because I didn't recognize how little Sam Elliott was going to be in it. But when I saw it again, it stood out to me how really good Sam Elliott is in it. But obviously this was going to be Ollie all day. I would really like to know if we would have had this outcome if Ollie had run in leading. I would have really liked to have seen what would have happened. Because he, like, really, really ran away with this when he clearly is leading, which is really funny because he's practically leading in Green Book, and a lot of people complain that he's not in Moonlight enough. So it was like he overcompensated and still won. So yeah, I mean, once again, though, clearly makes sense when you see the rest of the results, but yeah. Okay, so, actress. Obviously, I was just as pleased as most people, because even though, I don't know if... I honestly don't know who I prefer between Coleman and, Lisa Parisa, because when we did our own personal lineups in the video, I have Coleman in supporting. But like I said, the fact that she could... the opposite of Ollie, even though almost when you're watching it, it seems like it could potentially be considered a supporting performance, the fact that it makes enough of an impression to win in leading says everything. But you can also say they all three are, or have it split up the way they do, or whatever. I'm sure there's a lot of debate. But, point being, I know some people feel bad for Glenn Close, and I kind of get it, especially when I went back and watched it, and it's like, obviously Glenn Close was so gracious, and Coleman saying, like, this isn't how I wanted it to be, and Close was like, this is yours, this is absolutely yours, and all that, and all of her interviews afterwards, it was like, she was great and all that. I don't know, like, that second you saw Coleman's name announced, you could tell Glenn Close really thought she had it, I think. Like, you can kind of see, an reaction. But, I mean, I guess you could also say, maybe the Academy is just really, really fond of rabbits. So they went with the performance that is a woman that's obsessed with rabbits as opposed to Glenn Close, and we know her history. But, jokes aside, I do kind of like that, Coleman took this because like Glenn Close obviously, you know, has done so much great work and has all those nominations under her belt and all that, but even so, I don't know that this would have been the performance to win for, especially since it's one of those things. It's like she wouldn't have been winning for the performance; she would have been winning for one scene, and yeah, and just everything Coleman does throughout. Like Coleman has to go to so many different places and bounce around so much with that character, and somehow still makes it like this whole consistent, you know, character. Um, and then like the physicality involved just on top of that also, like, you know, some performances are like, you know, all showing us like, you know, the dialogue and all that and the shouting, and some performances like DiCaprio and The Revenant are like all physicality. This performance is like both. So yeah, that's, I think people are gonna really appreciate that win as time goes on too. So, and like you're already seeing it everywhere. I really love the reaction she's gotten. Like the really, because everybody's been so fucking negative about just everything surrounding this ceremony quite a bit from what I've seen. I mean, it's nice to see that like everybody can agree on one thing, that they love that Olivia Colman won and they loved her speech, or lack thereof, which is even more charming. So yeah, that was really nice. As far as actor goes, as I said in the video before I left, I was pulling for Malik. I've been pulling for Malik since I saw the movie. You know, fuck off the people that say, you know, he just acted with makeup or he just did lip syncing. There's some. They even like did the scene when he's playing Bohemian Rhapsody and he realizes what's coming out of him as his Oscar clip. And it's like the second I saw that, I was like, yes, I love this moment because I love the expression on his face when he realizes what he's making. And I just know everybody else is going, oh, he's just fucking lip-syncing, this performance is garbage, or some stupid shit like that. So, yeah, and that's really, yeah, we all kind of thought Bale was somewhat hanging in there, but this is one of those cases where I kind of want to see the numbers, like how far away Bale was, if Bale was even there. Like, I almost wonder if, like, now that we know that Green Book's one picture, like, where was Mortensen? Was Mortensen above Cooper? It's hard to say, but I think Cooper got like Cooper obviously got the praise. You know, he seemed to have felt like he took a hit with the director snub and the fact that and missing, you know, the debut at DGA and all that. But I mean, like, I think he got all that goodwill back with the performance of Shallow. Like he's Bradley Cooper. He's gonna be fucking fine. So yes, I was very, very happy with the Malik win, despite the fact of him falling off the stage and almost fucking killing himself, apparently. But being fine enough to get, you know, backstage, get his Oscar engraved and spray champagne everywhere, so that's good for him also. I looked every damn where for footage of him falling off the stage, and the only video in existence, he falls out of the frame, so we don't know like how far the fall was or what he landed on or anything, but the fact that he's fine is all that matters. Even I would have loved to have seen exactly what it looked like in full. Alright, and then fucking Green Book wins picture. Okay, so as I was saying in one of the videos, it did seem weird. Like, there was something fishy about the fact that a black and white foreign movie by Netflix seemed like such a certainty. Where it's like, it really shouldn't be. Like, it really should not be the guarantee that it feels like. And it's one of those cases also where it's like, just the whole year, with the exception of DGA, because obviously Quaron was going to win director no matter what, it seemed like the guilds everywhere were just saying, fuck you. You know, it's like, we had SAG, and it was like, hey, you know, you expect, you know, Vice to be nominated, you expect The Favorite to be nominated, nope, here's these instead, and we're going to give it to Black Panther. And then you get to, like, supporting actress, and it's like, oh, the frontrunner's not here, it's going to be Amy Adams, for sure, or maybe even Rachel Weisz, and they said, fuck you, it's going to be Blunt. We get to WGA, and it's like, well, this is easy, Green Book and either Black Klansman or Beale Street Could Talk, probably. And they're like, nope, fuck you. Even though you didn't nominate Bo Burnham, we're going to go with Bo Burnham anyway. And, oh, you think it's going to be Black Klansman? Oh, you think it's going to be Beale Street? Well, fuck you, it's going to be Can You Ever Forgive Me? Get to Cinematography Guild, and it's like Roma, Roma, Roma. And they're like, fuck you, it's Cold War now. And it's Editing Guild. It's like, yeah, you know, obviously it's going to be, what is it? It's going to be Vice, and probably, you know, something else. and it's like maybe like I don't even know what the fuck, but they're like, hey, fuck Vice, it's gonna be The Favorite, and in the drama category, it's gonna be Bohemian Rhapsody. So fuck all of you. And after all this, PGA is still right. So yeah. So it's like, yeah, The Big Short be damned, and La La Land be damned, The Gravity Tide be damned, PGA still has it sometimes. So, yeah, a few things. So, Spike Lee, obviously. So obviously I've been pulling for Spike Lee all season. I would have loved to have seen BlacKkKlansman just take everything it was up for. And I would have been so happy. And so we have Spike Lee freaking out because he lost to another movie another movie that happens to resemble Driving Miss Daisy. Well, for starters, he seems to be putting people under the wrong impression because he kept saying that he lost to Driving Miss Daisy, which makes it sound like Do the Right Thing was nominated for picture, which it wasn't. He wasn't nominated for director, which was the big controversy at the time, was that he was snubbed except for screenplay. So that's kind of being blown out of proportion, that Driving Miss Daisy's out to get him or something. And now that he's going after Green Book, and he tried to storm out, they had to stop him. Apparently he screamed at Jordan Peele about something. There was that, video of Chadwick Boseman towards the front of the stage just looking back at somebody like, do you believe this bullshit? He could have been reacting to anything, but it looked like he was saying that about Green Book. And just a lot of other people. And people were getting real pissed off, saying it's the safe choice, saying it's a shitty movie, saying it's one of those movies for people that want to say in the laziest possible way they're not racist. But here's the thing, though, is, number one, it's really not surprising at all because of just how much of a mass appeal that Green Book has, because I feel like the Oscar ceremony was actually doing Green Book a disservice, which I know is an odd thing to say, given that they gave it Best Picture. But when I say that, I mean that if you are watching, like many people, like most people, if you're watching the Oscars and you've never seen Green Book, if you've barely heard of Green Book and you watch the Oscars, you're going to think Green Book is like this absolute 100% completely serious movie and just deals with race and all that, and has, an unlikely friendship in it. Never, I don't think, ever throughout the entire Oscar night did they ever show how funny Green Book is. And I think that's really the whole thing that makes Green Book have such a broad appeal, is it's about the serious subject matter, but a lot of the time it's funny. Like, the banter between them is funny, Mortensen's performance is hilarious, but it still does, and I know, I mentioned this when I reviewed it, how people want to just dismiss it as another one of those white savior movies, and one of those, movies that, think they're curing racism and all that, which is not, this did not feel that way to me. It really felt like it was just about the story of those two guys in this setting, and obviously, the racist is going to change his ways. And I've actually heard some people trying to counter the argument by saying when you watch the movie, it's not Tony that's saving Shirley, it's Shirley that's saving Tony and all that. And a lot of people think it's like really, really tone deaf that at the end of the movie you have Shirley driving him, when I honestly didn't even think about that until somebody brought it up. I simply saw it as Tony had been driving all night, they were trying to reach a deadline, Tony fell asleep, so Shirley got them there. The end. It's not some giant, it's actually, I mean, I get it. It just, the image itself makes people say, holy shit, you turned your whole point on its head in the worst way possible, I get it. But I really don't think it's that movie. At least to me, anyway. And, maybe if I were to see it, from the perspective of somebody of a different race, like, if that was me, maybe I would see it a different way. But as I am, I'm perfectly okay with Green Book. I do think it's extremely underwhelming as a picture winner, especially when you look at some of the stuff here. And especially when you look at the win count, like with Bohemian Rhapsody having 4, Black Panther having 3, and all that. And the favorite looking like this really big deal, but did manage to get in, one of its biggest nominations for the win at the very last minute when it looked like it was getting its ass kicked. And so, like, I mean, I suppose in retrospect it's not too surprising, especially with the fairly snub and director. But, I mean, that would have been bad if this got a director nomination, I'll be honest. I think McKay is a waste of a spot. I can't tell you how much of a waste of a spot Fairly would have been given the kind of competition here, but I do really like the movie. Like, that's the thing, too, is also, like, because when you go into a video like this, like, I'm sure some people will be really disappointed they clicked on this video and it's not somebody raging, saying the Oscars are worthless, saying, oh, they didn't nominate Hereditary for anything because, you know, a horror movie about Satanists and a child getting its head ripped off on screen should have been a picture frontrunner. That's something everybody would have gone towards. You need to... What I'm trying to say is that when you watch this enough and you know the kind of things that they go for, you know when they're going to be inspired and you know when something has no chance in hell whatsoever, and you can kind of get a glimpse of it where when they go with something like Green Book, I don't feel rage, I don't feel like, you know, so underwhelmed. I grew out of that when I was like 12 years ago, getting raged at some decision the Academy made, because they didn't go with the movie that I wanted. It's like my victory of the night was Black Klansman taking adapted screenplay. And I knew that was the only possible thing it was going to do. Like, if I was like these other people, I would be raging endlessly about the blunt snub or the fact that Mary Poppins went home empty-handed. But because you just watch the whole process and you kind of get an idea of where things are going, you get the idea to know what's realistic and what isn't, and you just get the fuck over it, and you enjoy it for, like, the game that it is. Like, you know, doing the whole podcast format with Ashley and Owen and the people in the chat and just discussing all the different possibilities and what could take this and what could take this. It's like, it doesn't really come down anymore to it's about what I want to win and whether it does or not. It's just the whole thing that I'm into. So it's like, if Green Book is not a terrible movie to me, then I'm fine with it, you know, winning picture. Like, the only problem would have been is if a terrible movie won picture. That would probably be when I'd be like, you know, what the fuck are you thinking? But it's Green Book. It's fucking Green Book. The rage that it's causing is just, I don't know. So, I don't know how to even respond to those people. I don't. So, as somebody that thinks Green Book is good, I don't think it's, like, great, but I like it quite a bit. Whatever. It won picture. The end. And that'll go down in Academy history forever. And we will move on to the next year, and it'll be, oh yeah, by the way, you know, Green Book won, and The Shape of Water, and all that. And it's like, yeah, it does seem pretty safe when a movie about, you know, a woman fucking an amphibian man won last year. It does seem like, you know, like, oh, I thought we were going to be a little more, you know, and, you know, go to Moonlight. And it's like, and I saw somebody asking, like, you know, oh, racially, Green Book is so backwards, and it's like, how did we get from Moonlight to this in 2 years? It's like, the power of Mahershala Ali, that's how. So, yeah, you know, whatever. It's whatever. The movie I wanted to win wasn't realistically going to win, so... And I don't hate any of these... The only thing that probably would have made me say, what in the fuck, is Vice. Like I said, it sounds like I hate Vice, the way I talk about it. I really don't. It just really shouldn't be here as much as it is. But, yeah, so, you know, whatever. I mean, it was kind of getting a bit exciting. It was kind of a double thing here, because as far as Roma being the frontrunner, the thing I was saying before was Roma seemed like such a frontrunner at the time, which is weird in retrospect, because the only thing it really had that was big was BAFTA, because Critics' Choice doesn't fucking matter, no matter how much people think it does. Look at the fucking results and see that now! Please! Please see how much Critics' Choice doesn't matter. But, I was saying before that it's weird how much of a certainty Roma seemed, to the point that it was kind of boring. But then it's like, how can a black and white foreign movie from Netflix about to win picture be boring? But then at the end there, it was starting to get exciting, where it's like, you know, this, if anything, it's going to be history. We're going to see a foreign movie win Best Picture for the first time. It's going to be a Netflix movie. This is going to get really weird really fast. There were all these articles coming out saying, like, you know, when Roma wins picture, is Netflix going to take over the world? Is Hollywood going to die? And it's like, well, apparently not. And secondly, that would have been, yeah, it would have been something. But it's weird how boring it seemed at the time, because it just seemed so certain. When, like I said, it really shouldn't have. And so, yeah. So that's what I think. I think the fairly snub in director may have been what was taking me so far away from it, even despite the PGA win. But yeah, there it is, and that's what it is now. And we all have to deal with it. And I'm sure some of us will be a lot more fine than others. And I know another thing people don't like about Green Book is the whole controversy about them basically not even mentioning Shirley during the speech, and the whole controversy about how there's actual recordings of like Shirley negating the stuff that happens in the movie and their friendship, how it wasn't really like that. But like I was saying about Bohemian Rhapsody, yeah, it is, I guess, insensitive to the family to tell this story but make it like entirely fictional. But that's the thing is, if you're not the family and you go into this and you can see it as a fictional movie, what it's trying to accomplish can still be in there, regardless. And there was, I think it was especially, it was less that and more like how they were handling it. I think was rubbing people the wrong way, like the fact that Val Longa was basically trying to say that he had no idea those people existed or something, which seems like a stretch. And Fairley's kind of the least in the wrong here because he was basically working with what Val Longa gave to him, which seems like, that's, the son of one of the main characters, and it's like, I mean, yeah, you can probably dive out a little more, but I mean, you could feel, if you were telling this story, it would be a bit of a confidence boost to feel like you were getting it straight from, like, the immediate family, but then again, there's the other family, so I do kind of get where that rubs people the wrong way. But I mean, as far as Green Book, nothing else, in the vision here, just Green Book as it is, it's fine. So that's how I feel about that. So that's what that was. So it's only going to be, 6 more months before we're doing this all over again, getting to see how far off we are, or how close we are, this many months in advance before the actual stuff starts to come out. So we'll see what happens. I know a lot of people, there were so many people complaining about this year with the nominees and a lot of the winners and all that, so we'll see if something a bit more universally acclaimed and beloved stuff happens. So we got a really interesting roster of releases next year. It's just a matter of where things end up and what gets in and what comes out of nowhere. What's going to be heavy players that we probably don't even know exist yet. We'll find all of that out. So I guess this pretty much puts 2018 entirely to sleep. So the next thing will be the Fighting With My Family thing with Owen and Ashley, and then I'm going to do just like a whole catch-up video on like all the shit I missed in 2019 because we were so caught up in the award season. And then hopefully with the release of Captain Marvel, we'll be able to get back on a normal schedule. I'll get some of those verses out I was going to do that I never did. All that. So, yeah, hopefully we can get back on track with that. So until all of that stuff